Hey everybody, I am Jessica. Thank y'all for joining me. What I wanted to work on today was just a short back in flow. Backs are something that get brought up in classes a lot in regards to maybe soreness or tightness, or some people have back injuries, so be really mindful of that and know that you've had your okay from your doctor to do whatever practice that you're doing. But back pain or back discomfort or issues with the back they're interesting because sometimes we think we just need to focus on the back. In actuality, a lot of times the back can be a reflection of other parts of our body that are in trouble or crisis, or just have something else going on. It could be related to weakness in the glutes. It might be related to something going on with our core. It could be something related to our hips, and it might also just be something related to our back, right? So as we work through the flow today, we'll address some of those parts of the body as well while focusing on the back. Again, we're going to keep it kind of short, so this can be hopefully a practice you can sneak in whenever you need to. So good to have today a couple of blocks or a couple of books. You can always put like a towel or blanket down on top of if you need them to be more comfortable. But if you have any more props at home that will make your practice more enjoyable or more supportive for you, then feel free to bring those into your practice as well. Let's just take a moment to get grounded. You're in maybe a seat or lying down or whatever is a comfortable position for you to start off the practice. Roll your shoulders up towards your ears, let them come back down, maybe a little bit closer to the shoulder blades on the back side of the body, arms, hands, wherever they're comfortable. You can close the eyes or focus the gaze for a moment. Beginning to allow yourself to maybe invite your attention and your awareness a little bit more internally. And then maybe even noticing more how often something external pulls you outside of that internal focus. So it might be scanning the body, it might be organizing your thoughts, it might even be connecting to how you feel today, but just checking in with you as you show up on your mat today. Allow yourself to focus on your breath. It doesn't have to be any sort of specific breathing technique, but just an awareness there for a moment. And then you might place a hand on belly, a hand on heart, or both hands to heart center, thumbs at your sternum. Once again, even inviting more physically that connection within us. And here, setting an intention or dedication or recognizing your mantra or affirmation for practice if you have one. As you're ready, opening your eyes or lifting your gaze, grabbing a hold of your block. It could be also a yoga bolster, it could be a pillow, your book. And we'll do supported back bend at first, a little bit more focus on our lumbar spine, our lower back for this back bend. So coming to lie back on your back, knees bent, soles of the feet to the mat. That's going to allow you to slide your block or book or bolster or pillow underneath your sacrum, and that's the flattish bone above our tailbone beneath our lower back. And then you'll kind of find that spot that feels best for you to settle your hips back down on, and just let yourself and your hips feel weighty into that prop that you have down below you. For your arms, maybe hands on belly. That can be a good way to connect to the breath if that's something that you feel like you need to come into practice today. Maybe arms alongside your body on your hips. You might reach them out a little bit further, start to stretch into the chest, the shoulders for some of us, maybe even back alongside your ears or up over your head. So whatever feels comfortable for you here.
We're gonna go into an extended variation for those of y'all that want to of this supported bridge pose, but we'll just start off first with knees bent, soles and feet to the mat, and this is always the variation that you can come back to. If you've got a prop that you can adjust the height, feel free to go to the different height settings and play with that and see what feels best for your back today. And then you can always close your eyes. You might focus your gaze here on one point above you. Kind of notice if it feels better for your feet to be wider or your feet to be more narrow, and the direction or angle of your feet in or out, what feels best there for you as well. And then just see how much you can set the back half of your body down heavy into whatever it's connecting to, and how much you can trust, and sometimes that can be hard for us, right? Trust and surrender to that support beneath us. So if we're someone that has had to do things on our own, or we don't get much help, then that can be a hard part of the practice. But saying if you can feel whatever's beneath you and let that just hold you here. And then I will be quiet for the next minute or so. So before we go into the extended leg variation or continue to stay in this variation, we're going to work a little bit of a hip flexor stretch using the prop beneath us. This also might be a time where you need to adjust the height of your prop, so again, feel free to do that. Let's go ahead and draw the right knee in towards our chest, interlace our fingers around the right knee or right shin, and you might have a strap or towel here if you need to. And then from here, we're going to take our left leg long down the length of the mat. Allow the heel to touch down, and then to get more sensation into the left hip flexor, you can do a few things. Drive your left heel stronger into the mat, flex your toes, your left toes towards your face, and drive your heel further away from you. And then at the same time you're doing that, start to pull a little bit more intensely and strongly through your hands, through your right leg, drawing your right shoulder towards your right armpit. To intensify a little bit more, keep driving your left heel away from you as you rotate your right hip in the opposite direction. So it's as if I'm pulling my right hip, kind of right butt cheek towards the camera, towards the right shoulder, and then driving my left heel away. And then if you need less, you can always backtrack, bend the left knee a little bit, loosen up the grip on the right side. You might be getting a little bit of work through the right oblique and feeling a little bit of a stretch through the left torso, through the left side of your torso as well. And so right now we're focusing our attention on our hip flexor, which is one of the connection points between our femur bone, that's our big leg bone, and our lower back. So sometimes if that gets weak for us, if that gets tight for us, that can in fact affect our back. So we're working on that, especially those of us that either sit all day long or those of us that actually do things like run or cycle. And I hardly do either one of those. So if you're one of those people that do those great activities, this can be a good one for you. Take another breath on this side. Go ahead, softly bend your left knee and then more deeply bend the sole of the left foot to your mat. And then take your right foot back down to the mat. Just give yourself a moment between the sides if you need it. And then drawing the left knee in, you might interlace opposite pinky and thumb on top if you want to on this side. And then right leg's gonna extend out, and then you can drive your right heel into the mat. You can drive it further away from you if you wish. You can do that little kind of lateral tilt actually with the pelvis. So left butt cheek, left hip towards your left shoulder more as you rotate your right hip kind of down and away from you. So, as with all practices as a teacher, I believe it's completely up to you to decide where you need to go with this. And that can sometimes be a battle between your mind and your body. But, it's your decision. This is your body, your practice. So take this to where you need this to go. This is a little bit more of an active stretch. Take a couple more cycles of breath here on this side. So since you can see a little bit better here on this side, we're focusing the attention on the stretch. For most of us, it's going to be right here. You might even notice it kind of translating up through the torso as well if you're taking a little bit of the lateral stretch of the torso and hip. Then the right knee, draw the sole of the right foot back to the mat, loosen the grip on your left leg, have it come back to the mat. You can come back and stay here in our restorative bridge pose, or feel free to take it to the extended leg variation. So exactly what we did, except we're going to do it with both legs straight out long. Now some options here, you might need to come down lower or maybe go higher on the setting. You might need to really be active like we just were with the extended leg. Feet flexed, drive the heels away from you, maybe hips more neutral, so thighs pointing up towards the ceiling. Or you might be okay, legs wider, maybe feet relaxed, your toes rolling out. So play with the different options and then really notice what we're feeling on our lower back. So we are creating a compression on the lower back, but we're wanting to make sure that while it may feel uncomfortable or a little bit stiff for us, it doesn't feel like someone's with a little knife under there stabbing us, or pins and needles, or electrical sensations. So making sure that we're going to the depth that's appropriate for us. Right now, I'm not really jamming with this. I'm going to come back to the knee bent variation, but if you're good in the extended leg variation, stay with that, and we'll spend maybe another minute or so here. Again, you can close the eyes or focus the gaze. If your legs are still straight, go ahead, bend your knees, begin to draw the soles of your feet back to the mat. And then pressing into the feet, go as slow with this as you need to. So if you're still coming back to it, that's completely fine. Elevate your hips up away from your prop. Go ahead, slide it out of the way. Lower your hips back down to the mat. And just give your body some time to reconnect now without a prop. From here, it might feel good to take some soft windshield wipers, so letting the knees move left and right, left and right. If you want to make some kind of loose little knee circles, you might bind each knee with each hand, rotate around in the knee and the hips. You can change that out, move at the same time. If it feels better to rock a little bit or rock up and down, feel free to bring that into your practice here. And from here, we're not going to take a yin length amount of time, but we'll take a reclining spinal twist on each side. If it's okay just to have the knees side by side, because we're going to be here for a couple of breaths, go ahead and move in that direction. Whichever way your knees wanted to go first, let them fall that way. The opposite arm might go anywhere from alongside your ear to resting on your hip. And your opposite hand can bind up that tight top leg. I like that to lock it in a little bit more, but if you feel like, hey, I just want to let go here, feel free to do that. Maybe the gaze goes up towards the ceiling, away from your knees, or towards your knees, depending on what your neck feels like it needs today. So check in with your neck, see what you need here. You can also test out, how does it feel to have your knees real tight up, or how does it feel to have them a little bit looser? Coming back through center, If you need to reset the hips a little bit or the spine a little bit through middle, go ahead, do that. Knees can come back up, can work to the opposite side, again, check out, head, neck, opposite arm, what you want to do with the opposite hand to your top knee, how tight you want to bind up that twist. And then whatever side you're on, let's just keep rolling in the direction of our knees to come out of it. So rolling off to one form, elbow palms, to bring yourself back up to a seat. We're gonna work into Malasana Squat here. So if you have the flexibility, mobility to work from the floor from a seat, go ahead, do that. If you need to come into a standing forward fold position, feel free to do that, but take the feet whatever distance apart it feels appropriate for you to bend your knees and come down into a squat. Some of us might be in a more supported squat forms on our thighs or knees or hands on the mat. Some of us are going to be able to come all the way down onto our feet and maybe onto our heels. If our heels don't rest onto the floor, feel free to take a little wedge or a blanket, and you can always bring that underneath your heels for a little bit more balance here, so you're not having to hold the balance. So for Malasana Squat, toes usually determine the way they point in or out is by the direction of your knees, so make sure that both of these feel comfortable. And then options for the hands, maybe if we're up off of our heels, we might want to have the hands down on the floor for a little bit of extra support and balance. If we're all the way down on our heels, you might want to wrap them around your knees. You might want to come inside. You might want to lengthen the spine a little bit. That's fine. So right now with Malasana Squat, we are working a little bit on the hips because, right, the back is not just a discrete part of our body that functions absent of other parts of our body. It's affected by other parts. So working on the hips a little bit here. So you might feel this, well, on the hips, right? You might feel it through the lower back, a stretch there. If you let the head relax, you might feel it a little bit more through the back of the neck if that feels good for you. So just kind of explore here. You can round the back a little bit more. You can take a little bit straighter. For me right now, after that back bend, it does feel good to take a little bit straighter or a little bit more bent. So feel free to play with your variation. Maybe also noticing if you feel this on the outer hips. Some people sometimes feel it through the quadriceps. Some feel it through the calves some days, or through the Achilles tendon. If you have more inflexible ankles, if you have tighter calves, again, if you're, maybe a runner or a cyclist, you might have a little bit more natural tightness to the body. So you might be feeling input from the body letting you know about those parts of your body right now. So tuning into that. And from here, we're going to move into our caterpillar seated forward fold. So really great if you already do have a blanket nearby or underneath your heels. We're going to come down to our seat. So if you were in a supported squat like this, it might be hands coming down and finding your way down to the mat. But whatever way we can get down to the mat, in our seated forward folds, it can be nice to sit up on a little lip of something. So sitting on the edge of a blanket or on the edge of a bolster. If we do have really tight hamstrings or back today, it can be actually really good to sit all the way up against the wall. And that way, your booty against the wall, you have a little bit of something feeling like it's kind of holding you into that forward fold. But if you need to, bend the knees as much as you need to. You can always put your hands alongside your hips. Pick your butt up, and instead of sitting kind of flat and rounding back, think about picking your butt up and scooting it back behind you a little bit more, and then putting it back down. And we're going to create a little bit of that forward fold action already. Props here if we need them, blocks, blankets underneath the knees.
If our hamstrings are tight, you can have a bolster or a pillow here. This can be a really nice support again for tighter hamstrings or tighter back or tighter glutes or whatever might be happening today. Some other options for our caterpillar forward fold with your feet hip width apart together a little bit wider, that's fine. Some people like to rest forearms on the outside of their legs. You can always put your forearms on blocks outside your legs or your palms on the floor or blocks outside your legs. Some people want to let the arms go but want a little bit of extra support for the forehead, head and neck, so you can always put the forehead down onto a block and kind of let everything be heavy here. Some people like no props, so just wherever it feels comfortable for your arms to go. We're going to let the head and the neck go as long as we don't have any issues that are contraindicated for us rounding the neck or rounding the spine. So you're going to kind of see like a deep rounding in the upper back, maybe a little bit less in the lower back. Some other options here for those of you that might have a little bit more flexibility today, you can always prop the heels up onto blocks and give yourself a little bit more space for that forward fold. But the focus here is on the back side of the legs and on the spine. So just taking it to where you need to go so that you feel that with the legs as bent or as straight as you need them to be. Let the legs be relaxed, let your toes be relaxed. And then we'll hang out here for a couple more minutes. And again, I'll try to be a little bit quieter so that you can tune into your practice. As you stay here a little bit longer, you might find it becomes easier to fold into this. You might find it actually becomes more strenuous, so like you need to back out of it or pull more props into it. So I'll just also notice the change of the posture, the change of your body's reaction to the posture, and adjust as needed. We'll start to make our exit out of this pose. So if you have any props underneath your forehead or hands, as you place your hands back on your legs or the floor and you walk back, you can start to move those out of the way, slowly coming back up, letting yourself notice maybe where on the back side of the body you felt that the most. It may feel good reaching back in the palms. Might feel good to go back on the forearms or take a little bit of a back bend here. We can also make this a bit more active if we want to. Reverse tabletop, palms, fingers turn in or out, however's comfortable for the shoulders, and make sure the hands are wide enough that it feels good for the shoulders too. Feet on the mat, stable distance apart. You can lift the hips up, just stretch out to the front of the body. Some people like to relax their heads back, so you can play with that or work to strengthen the neck by keeping it upright. If you feel like you want to move up and down a few times, do that. If it feels good to stay just back in the stretch that we had with our palms down, or to shake the legs out or move through the feet or ankles, go ahead and do that. Might take another couple moments to move around in some ways that feel good for you after that. And then we're gonna work laterally in the spine. We're not, again, gonna do kind of a long held posture, but we'll work a little bit of lateral flexion of the spine and also a seated twist, since we didn't spend a long time in our yin twist. So kind of 2 longer yin holds in this posture or this class, with our back bend and our forward fold, and a little bit more active when we take it through the lateral side stretch. So if you need a little bit extra height, you can have blocks on either side or pillows or whatever you might need here. We'll just move side to side with the breath and then come into a little bit of a longer hold. So inhale, you can reach the arms up. You can always take the gaze up. Do whatever feels good with the arms and the hands here, and then go off to whatever side feels best for you. So it might be a palm on the floor out beside you. It might be a forearm to a prop or the floor. We really want to focus on getting as much of a side stretch as we can get here, like deep into it. So drive the hip that you're stretching away from towards the floor, and from here stretch even longer with the arm that you have lifted. And then what you can do with the grounded arm is not only drive it into the mat, but use it to drive away from the floor, away from the prop, and get more into that angle, and it should feel like a really good juicy stretch to take it to that place where it feels like that for you. You can always open up a little bit, gaze chest towards the ceiling, or stay a little bit more centered. Inhale, come back up. You can stretch up tall again, change the gaze if it feels good, and then start to move off to your other side. And then explore here a little bit what you need. Again, if we need a little bit less, we don't push as much away from the floor. You might not stretch as much with the top arm. We kind of intensify that. Remember, you can drive the hip with the arm that's lifted down and away from you into the floor. Stretch out through your extended arm, change up the angle maybe, and then not only drive into your forearm or palm, but use it to press your opposite hip away from you. Feel that. And then can you breathe deeper into that side? Inhale, come back up through center. We'll take a seated twist. So maybe the opposite way you just went. One arm behind you, one hand to maybe thigh, knee, hip, whatever feels comfortable to take the twist. Inhale, come up through center. Exhale, twist your other side. We're going to come into our lateral stretch again. Inhale up through center. You might want to explore it with the props or without the props, depending on what you did the first time, or you might feel like you really enjoyed the variation that you'd had before. So feel free to try it out in a different form, or maybe, it's without the props, the same form. But kind of check it out here, see what gives you more control, what gives you that depth that you want. We're going to spend a couple of breaths here, so find that place that feels good for you, and you can always test it out. And since we're going to be here for a few more breaths, see if you can really direct the breath to expand on the side of the body that you're stretching away from the arm that's grounded. Visualize those muscles that live in between your ribs on that side, stretching wider. And this time, top arm, allow it to come down to the floor. We'll walk it through center, and then walk back up through center. Inhale up. Go your opposite way. Again, you might explore, I want it with or without the prop. No, I like the palm. No, I like my forearm. Find whatever feels better for you on this side. And then see if you can do a little bit more directed breath work. So can you, instead of maybe breathing into the belly, like we often teach in a yoga class, or into our chest, like sometimes we breathe, especially when we're stressed or angry, see if you can direct it to fill up the space on the right side of your torso in between your ribs. So intense, my arm's shaking. I don't know if y'all can see it. And then gently bringing your top arm down, whichever arm that is for you, allowing yourself to walk back through center, walking back up through center. And then let's lean back, take the legs out long one more time. We'll take a seated twist, one leg extended, one leg bent. So let's draw our right knee up towards the ceiling, crisscross it over our left leg. If you need to bring the left leg a little bit more towards the right, go ahead and do that. And then the right hand can come back behind you to a block or to the floor. Left arm, if you feel like you want to sweep it up first, feel free to do that. You can hug the knee. You can bring your tricep or your elbow, your left, outside your right knee or right thigh. See if you can press into the right palm or fingertips. Maybe sit up a little bit taller, and then take your gaze over your right shoulder or towards the right a little bit more. With your left leg, you might point out through your toes, you might flex your toes, be really active in the leg, so find the one that's preferable for you. Maybe breathe in length up to the crown of your head. And then really let go of the exhale. Coming back through center, taking a little counter twist opposite way if that's enjoyable for you, and then we'll swap it out for the other side. So right leg can go long. It can come a little bit more towards your left side if that is more accessible for you to bring your left leg up and over. Left hand back behind you, block floor or fingertips. Maybe you want to come up and over with a tricep or elbow. You can hug on. I like to grab a little bind if I can get it with my yoga pants, really latch on. Another thing that can feel good is to sit, as you sit up tall, think about driving on this side, your left knee a little bit away from you. And this can be a good stretch again through the torso, maybe through the lat, depending on if you're tight there, your lats today on the right side. Sitting up a little bit taller. Do what feels good with the right leg to make it active. Taking the gaze towards the left or over your left shoulder. Maybe another breath, you sit up a little bit taller. And then see how fully you can let go your exhale here. You have no more air left. Come back through with the inhale and maybe a little side stretch off to the opposite side. Come back through center. Give yourself any little movements or any little wiggles that you need here to let this go. If you need to do some shoulder rolls or head and neck rolls, sometimes I just kind of like roll out the spine in organic ways. Do whatever feels good for you. And then we will take a seat, again, whatever seat feels comfortable for you, to finish off the practice. If you want to take a Shavasana, feel free to put on some music, shut me off, take a Shavasana, and then get up as you're ready. Otherwise, we'll finish in a seated meditation, since this might be a little break during the day and you might not want to get that relaxed before you drift off to the rest of your day. So find the comfortable seat, maybe close your eyes or focus your gaze. You can roll the shoulders up again towards your ears, and then shoulder blades maybe just a smidge closer together, and down, depressed away from your ears on the back of your body, arms, palms, wherever it's comfortable again for you. Again, allowing yourself to tune in internally, maybe shut off a little bit externally, even though I'm talking and kind of jumping into that space. And recognize if you're sitting on the floor and off, say, a couch or a desk chair, even this, starting to train ourselves to do this 5 minutes a day, 10, 20, an hour, couple hours, can be really beneficial, because we start to activate the core and the spine in different ways than we do when we're kind of chilled back in a couch or in a seat or a desk chair. So feeling what it even feels like to be in the seat. For some of us, it may even feel uncomfortable to be here because we don't do this as often. You can draw one hand to heart, one hand to belly, hands to heart center, thumbs at your sternum, whatever is more appropriate or feels better to connect to yourself at the end of this practice. You can draw your thumbs up to your forehead if your palms are together. Draw your chin in towards your chest so that you can recognize your practice and the effort that you put to yourself today. I bow to you and I give you my gratitude for joining me with this practice today. You know, just like each person that we meet, we have an effect on that person. Albeit small sometimes or sometimes huge, and maybe it's not even one that we recognize. And just like how we're connected to everything that we encounter in a day, so are our body parts. It's not just our back shut off from every part of our body, but allowing yourself in these practices to start to feel out just in those ways that one thing affects another thing, one thing affects another thing, and seeing, you know, just again how interconnected we are and how interconnected we are. So thank y'all again for joining me. Shoot me any comments, or you can send me an email if you have any questions. Have a wonderful day.